In this video, we are comparing the original Red Tobacco by Mancera with the newer Red Tobacco Intense, which I only picked up a few days ago, and I've been testing it ever since I got it, so I can give you the full comparison in this video. Now, why is Red Tobacco by Mancera such a popular fragrance in niche perfumery as a whole, but also it's probably Mancera's most popular fragrance, maybe apart from Cedrat Boise. Red Tobacco offers such a good value for money. You pay retail price around £120 for 120ml for a fragrance that smells as good as this does and performs as well as this does. The reason why I say retail is because you can find this on discounted websites for even cheaper. But if you have to buy it retail, £120 for the quality you get in Red Tobacco, it's still a fantastic value for money. So how does Red Tobacco smell? Well, it is predominantly a fruity, spicy tobacco fragrance. It opens up very fruity with apple and pear and spices like saffron. You get a spicy apple opening, at least I do, and as it dries down, it becomes smoother. The notes really amalgamate together as it dries down, and it becomes a much more smoother, enjoyable fragrance. In the far dry down, you'll get the tobacco, amber with a touch of oud and vanilla. It becomes quite sweet as it goes further into the dry down, and it becomes a lot more smoother as well. The opening can come across as quite harsh and maybe abrupt a little bit because there are so many notes in the opening. There's so much going on. It's a very strong fragrance, so especially if you spray it around your neck, the whole fragrance is going to elevate up and go into your nose, go into your face, and it might seem like it's quite a harsh, possibly even synthetic opening. I don't think the opening is that bad. There are just some fragrances on the market with a smoother opening, but for me, the best part of Mancera's Red Tobacco comes in the dry down. Spicy apple. The spicy apple opening is beautiful, and you do get a very nice, realistic tobacco note. I love the fact that this fragrance does change as it goes through from the opening to the dry down. You get different qualities as you go through each stage, and that's one thing that is so interesting about perfumery. You can wear a fragrance all day, and in this case, it will last you all day and into the next morning as well, as long as you don't wash it off. And you get a different facet each time you smell it. It starts off with the spicy apple, then transitions into the smoother tobacco before we finally reach the amber, the vanilla, and the hint of oud in the dry down. Oh, there are some similarities to Parfums de Marly Carlisle with Red Tobacco. I do pick up on the similarities because Carlisle does have the spicy apple. It also has a tobacco note, although it's not a listed note in Carlisle. I do pick up on a tobacco-like note with Carlisle, and tobacco is of course a listed note in here. So there are some similarities. I think Carlisle is a bit smoother, and also there are some other differences as well. They don't smell exactly the same. It's for another video, really. I will do a comparison between Red Tobacco and Carlisle, but it does have some similarities, and that I believe is one of the reasons why this has become so popular. This is for a man who does want to be noticed. If you wear Red Tobacco, people will notice that you are wearing something. It is a fragrance that really does push out. It projects a lot, and it also lasts a very long time. I think this will last you on clothes into the next day. It's very strong and very loud. Red Tobacco is confident, domineering, and impressive. Now let's look at the newer Red Tobacco Intense. So in the opening of Red Tobacco Intense, you can instantly tell that it's not as fruity. You haven't got the spicy apple and the pear note that are in the original Red Tobacco. So straight away, the fruitiness is gone. It almost feels a little bit smoother. The opening is a lot nicer in Red Tobacco Intense. At least I prefer the opening. Even though I love the spicy apple touch you get in Red Tobacco, I feel the opening in here is a lot more rounded and smoother. This also has a smoky leather note. I picked up on that immediately because it reminded me of another fragrance which we'll get onto in a second, but you get this spicy leather note which you don't get in the original Red Tobacco, and it makes this smell a lot more professional and formal. Now, the fragrance this reminds me of, because of that spicy leather note, these are not two fragrances that smell the same. It's only the note that reminds me of this fragrance, and that is Falcon Leather by Matière Premier. The smoky leather note smells almost exactly the same, and it's something I picked up straight away. It's very realistic, and it is a beautiful accord. So I think Mancera have done a fantastic job in introducing that smokiness into Red Tobacco. Now, the smokiness comes from leather, tobacco, and garlic wood. If you mix those notes together, I believe you get this beautiful smokiness, and it smells wonderful. It's a very nice addition because it's different to the original red tobacco. When you have a flanker like an intense flanker or elixir or whatever the flanker is, sometimes there's not a whole lot of differences and there are maybe just some smoother touches, but I love that they've really added some different notes in here whilst keeping the overall composition the same. You can still tell that this is Mancera's Red Tobacco. It just has some other interesting notes that you might enjoy. So because Red Tobacco Intense is smoother, it is a bit more well-rounded. It just comes across as a more elegant and well put together fragrance. It hasn't got the harsh opening, it hasn't got the energy that the original Red Tobacco has, where it's noticed because there are so many different facets of the fragrance. This is much more smooth and well put together, so it's still a powerful fragrance. It's still the confident man who wants to be noticed, because make no mistake, it's still a very strong fragrance. The performance on here is still excellent. I mean, it's extrait de parfum concentration, and it's very similar to Red Tobacco, so the performance is going to be fantastic still. But it's the same man who wants to be noticed, the powerful, domineering man we spoke about in Red Tobacco, but he is wearing a finer suit, a sharp suit, a well-fitted suit, and he is at a much more formal and classy event than he would be if he was wearing the original Red Tobacco. I think this is fantastic. I'm very happy that I picked this up because I love the original Red Tobacco, and also I love the change in this. Now, I don't know if you need to own both because they're still around, 80% roughly the same. There are a lot of similarities between these two, so you don't necessarily need to own both. There are so many fragrances on the market that you don't need to own fragrances that are that similar to each other. But if you do love Red Tobacco, I think you would also really enjoy Red Tobacco Intense, especially if you are not a fan of the opening of Red Tobacco. Red Tobacco Intense is a fantastic option. Please don't worry about the performance of either of these two. They perform fantastically well, and you will not need any better performance. So which one do I prefer? Well, I actually prefer the opening of Red Tobacco Intense, but I think overall the original Red Tobacco is still perhaps more enjoyable, especially in the dry down. I think as it dries down, it does become really nice. I love the smooth vanilla-y character you get with the original Red Tobacco, and it's still a fantastic fragrance to get. So Red Tobacco is my favorite out of the two, but I will really enjoy Red Tobacco Intense, especially maybe for the more formal occasions. Let me know, have you tried these two fragrances? Of course, Red Tobacco is very popular, and I do recommend you trying it if you're getting into niche fragrances. And let me know if you've tried Red Tobacco Intense and what you think. Tomorrow we're doing a review of Parfums de Marly Carlisle, the new batch versus the old batch. I'm not sure if I'll release it tomorrow or in a few days time, but the next video on this channel will be a Parfums de Marly review, old batch versus new batch. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.